WandaVision started with many questions and it ended with a bang. But although the MCU's most mysterious project answered many of its biggest questions, there was a lot still left to speculation after the last post-credits scene. Here are the biggest unanswered questions in WandaVision. Not only would it have been really cool to get a Doctor Strange cameo in WandaVision, it's genuinely a little puzzling what the narrative reasoning could be behind it not happening. For example, think about his appearance in 2017's Thor Ragnarok. Thor and Loki are only in New York City a few minutes before Strange kidnaps Loki from a safe distance while leaving an invitation for Thor. When Thor accepts the invite to Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum, he learns Loki is on a watch list Strange keeps of threats to Earth and that he's understandably concerned about his return.
So I keep a watch list of individuals and beings from other realms that may be a threat to this world. Your adopted brother Loki is one of those beings.
So Doctor Strange knows within minutes not only that Loki is back on Earth, but knows where he is with such specificity that he can capture him with a spell that doesn't affect anyone else. But a woman who we eventually learn is a legend among practitioners of magic creates a mystical pocket reality in the middle of New Jersey, resurrects her dead lover, creates 2 twin sons from scratch, and takes an entire town hostage in the process. And Strange couldn't even take a quick trip to Westview to find out what's going on? This may be addressed in the upcoming film Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. One possible explanation is that, since WandaVision takes place not long after the events of 2019's Avengers Endgame, Strange is too busy dealing with the fallout from that conflict to handle Westview or even be aware of it. The penultimate WandaVision episode ends with the surprise reveal that S.W.O.R.D. has successfully reassembled the deactivated Vision's body and made him look more or less like the robot version of a White Walker. After a brief and scary reunion with Wanda, the White Vision spends most of the rest of the finale locked in battle with the Magic Vision that Wanda created in Westview. The White Vision ultimately abandons his mission to kill Wanda and her vision after the latter unlocks his memories. Though he doesn't change sides to help Wanda, he simply leaves the scene altogether. So, where does he go? And perhaps more importantly, what has the restoration of his memories affected? Do they restore his sense of humanity? You would think if that were the case that he would leap at the chance to help Wanda, but he doesn't. There's also the option of turning on his sword handlers for payback, but that doesn't happen either. At least not that we see.
If only you had a little more vision.
That's a good one, Hayward.
Perhaps the best answer is that, overloaded with all this new data, the White Vision retreats somewhere to process his new existence. We certainly hope to see him again and learn what's become of him, and in exciting news, Paul Bettany told Esquire in a March 2021 interview that he is indeed planning to return to the role. What will become of him next? For now, he's just one of the biggest question marks WandaVision leaves behind. There are hints throughout WandaVision of Wanda having done something to the children of Westview, but we don't get a clearer picture of what's been going on until the series finale. When Agatha frees Dottie's mind, we learn that her real name is Sarah, and that for the whole time Wanda's controlled Westview, Sarah has been separated from her daughter.
If you could just let her out of her room, if I could just hold her, please.
Presumably, the rest of Westview's families find themselves in similar situations. The question is, why would Wanda keep these families separated? The most obvious answer is that children are meant as hostages to keep Westview's populace dancing to Wanda's tune. But Wanda seems to have everybody firmly under her psychic control, so why would hostages even be necessary? Another possibility is that Wanda isn't willing to psychically violate children the same way she does their parents, so instead she separates them.
Hey, don't get me wrong. You've handled the ethical considerations of this scenario as best you could.
It's also possible that this is another product of Wanda's trauma. Wanda's experienced a lot of loss, losing everyone in her biological family along with Vision, so maybe the separation of Westview's families is simply a reflection of how all of Wanda's loved ones have been taken from her.
When you let us sleep, we have your nightmares.
When a stork shows up in episode 3, now in color, it seems to be the only thing in Westview that Wanda's powers can't control. After Monica arrives, Wanda tries multiple times to send the bird away. In most cases, the stork disappears for a moment or two, but it always comes back. The stork makes a very brief reappearance in episode 7 as Wanda's control over Westview begins to slip and the shapes of her illusions start changing all on their own. So, what was going on with that stork? Why was it there, and why didn't Wanda's powers have any lasting effect on it? The best answer we can come up with is only a partial one. The stork is somehow connected to the arrival of the twins, Billy and Tommy. It shows up in the episode in which the twins are born, but obviously, according to folklore, storks deliver children to their parents. More importantly, Wanda's powers can't dismiss the bird just as her powers can't control the twins. Remember that early in episode 5, when Wanda decides to use her powers to force the twins to stop crying, she's confused to learn her powers won't work on them. Assuming we're right, that still doesn't explain what the stork actually is. Was it an unconscious manifestation Wanda created, or does it represent an unrevealed outside source which brought Wanda her twin children for reasons even she doesn't know? One of the most interesting moments of the series finale comes when Wanda walks through Westview with the victims of her hex glaring at her. She has a brief exchange with Monica, who tells her the residents will never know what she sacrificed for their sake. And Wanda retorts that it wouldn't change what they think of her. Wanda tells Monica she's sorry for the pain she's caused. Not long after, she makes her exit from the town. It's more than a little disturbing that Wanda doesn't bother to take any time to apologize to the people of Westview for what she's done. WandaVision doesn't tell us exactly how long Wanda's hex has been up, but it's been at least a few weeks. So for all that time, Wanda has kept an entire town psychically and physically hostage. She has separated them from their lives and separated them from their children. She has violated them mentally and physically. And on her way out of town, she apologizes. To Monica? Clearly, Wanda didn't consciously intend to inflict pain on anyone else, but that doesn't make her any less responsible for what happened. She's right when she says nothing would change what they think of her, but so what? Acknowledging her crimes and apologizing for them is the absolute least she could do, and she neglects to do it. That's not a good sign.
Heroes don't torture people.
On the surface, Agatha's fate seems pretty clear. At the end of episode 7, breaking the fourth wall, we learn the woman we knew as Agnes isn't a Westview resident. Attracted by Wanda's magic, Agatha uses her own powers to inject herself into Wanda's illusions. After Agatha loses her battle against Wanda in the series finale, the Scarlet Witch doles out what seems like a fitting and poetic punishment. She transforms Agatha into the same nosy neighbor she's pretending to be since the beginning of WandaVision. But what has us scratching our heads is that shortly after transforming Agatha, Wanda undoes her reality-changing hex. The illusory Westview of which Agatha pretended to be a citizen no longer exists, meaning that Agatha is now a sitcom character for a sitcom that doesn't exist. So, where did she go? The only answer we can come up with is that Agatha is now a resident of the real Westview, and that answer is kind of, well, insane. Even if you forget the obvious ethical question of doing to Agatha what Wanda has done, what about the rest of Westview's citizens? Wanda has already put these people through an absolute horror show of trauma and violation, and now she's going to force upon them an everyday reminder of what they've been through in the form of a powerful and power-hungry sorceress as their neighbor? Stay classy, Wanda. In the 4th episode of WandaVision, we interrupt this program. We find out exactly how Monica Rambeau got involved in the Westview case. Returning to active duty in SWORD, Rambeau is assigned as liaison to FBI agent Jimmy Woo, who we first meet in 2018's Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Close-up magic. I learned that.
Rambeau meets Woo outside Westview, where he tells Rambeau that he's there looking for someone in witness protection, but we never get any indication whether Woo successfully locates the witness. One theory some fans are batting around is that Woo's witness is the same guy who's been masquerading as Wanda's brother. In the finale, we learn that the false Pietro is named Ralph Boner, and that Agatha has been controlling him with some kind of mystical necklace.
Boner?
Boner.
When Monica says his name out loud, Ralph laughs at the obvious joke. Most people don't laugh at their own names, but Ralph does come off as someone who, upon entering witness protection, might have given himself a funny name on purpose. It's all pretty unclear. We end up not knowing much of anything about the guy. If this is the case, however, it's strange that Ralph seems to be an aspiring actor. You wouldn't think someone in witness protection would want to get a job that would give him more public exposure. And then again, Ralph doesn't seem like the sharpest tool in the shed. The minds of the people inside the Westview Hex aren't the only ones affected by Wanda's magic. When Monica first meets Jimmy Woo outside the Westview town limits, Woo has the Eastview sheriff repeat what he told Woo before she arrived, that the town of Westview, New Jersey doesn't exist.
No such place.
As she sends her drone into the Hex, Monica wonders aloud about the nature of this memory loss, including asking why it affects the Eastview sheriff and his deputy, but not Woo or her. She asks whether someone needs to have a personal connection to someone in the town to be affected, or if it has more to do with a specific radius around the town. But while we get Monica's questions, between this scene in episode 4 and the series finale, we never get an answer. Toward the end of the finale, we're left to assume Billy and Tommy disappeared along with the dream vision when Wanda took down the Hex. But in a post-credit scene, we see Wanda poring over the Darkhold just before hearing the voices of her children calling out to her for help. Does this mean they could return? We know that in the comics, the souls of Billy and Tommy are reincarnated in the forms of very real boys who in turn become the Young Avengers, Wiccan and Speed. But before that, their souls are claimed by the devilish Mephisto. And this is one of the many reasons WandaVision fan theorists believed the villain might show up in the series. While that never happened, could it be that Mephisto now has the twins? He's gotta show up eventually, right? Perhaps it isn't Mephisto who has the twins, but another powerful Marvel mystic entity. While it isn't confirmed, one of the more prominent rumors of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, in which Wanda will appear, is that the villain will be Nightmare, who controls a realm of dark dreams. Considering the dream world Wanda creates in WandaVision, wouldn't it make sense that she'd attracted his attention? WandaVision leaves us wondering exactly who or what this new version of Wanda is, particularly in terms of whether or not we can still count her on the side of the angels. During their battle, Agatha tells Wanda that the Darkhold says the Scarlet Witch is destined to destroy the world. It could be she was lying, but once she reveals herself to Wanda, lying doesn't seem to be her style. Everything else she says to Wanda tends to be true. She just reveals it with as much venom as she can muster. We know in the comics, Wanda has gone down some very dark paths. In the line-wide event, Avengers Disassembled, she causes the crisis leading to the deaths of 3 Avengers. In House of M, she transforms the entire world, and at the end of the event, she tries to completely strip all mutants of their powers, and succeeds in all but a small percentage. So, you know, being a bad guy isn't exactly alien territory for her. And her actions at the end of WandaVision are ambiguous as far as this goes. She brings down the Hex, which is definitely a good thing, but she doesn't apologize to any of Westview's people. She doesn't turn herself into the authorities, and she punishes Agatha in a way that, while fitting, is genuinely cruel. Who knows? When she shows up in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, maybe she won't be there to help the Sorcerer Supreme. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about the Marvel Cinematic Universe are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.